Hello, this is Coach Tim Campsell, and I'm your host for the Self-Made is a Myth, Make a Difference Together show, where we're talking with successful business owners to hear their stories of the journey to building their business. And because we know that success in business is not something that we do on our own, we recognize the folks who have helped us to excel. Today, I'm excited to have a fellow business owner with us today. My guest is an author, which we're going to learn a little bit more about. And in his downtime, he enjoys spending time with his wife and daughter, and he's most proud of his failures. And so we're going to dig into that one too, because that is quite intriguing to me. It's my pleasure to welcome Taylor to the show today. Hello, Taylor.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, let's start with having you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit of your personal story, like where you were born and about your family and some of your hobbies and all that fun stuff.
Awesome. My name is Taylor Simpson. I was born and raised in Ohio, really Dayton, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio are my roots. I kind of split my life into thirds. I always tell people I'm still curious to where home exactly is. So for me, home is where my family is. But Ohio for a third, Wisconsin, polar opposite geography for a third, and Indiana for a third. And I would say, in Indiana is home. I grew up a ton. I went to Ball State University. I graduated, went directly into the space that I thought that I'd be in my entire life. I always wanted to be an architect. I was the kid that was like drawing on napkins and selling, my napkin drawings for $1 to my aunts and uncles. And I went to Ball State University. Had never really heard of the school, but just found out that their architecture prowess was, known across the country. And I always thought I was going to be a Buckeye, so I was the Ohio State. And the funny story, I went to my college tour at the Ohio State University and then Ball State right after, and it was raining and ugly. And I was like, oh, I'm not going here. Like, there's no way. And then I walk into this architecture building, and people are like, they're diving across the tables and jumping on beds and throwing trace paper across the studio, and I said I have to go here. So I loved Ball State. I'm chirp all the way. Left school, went directly to a architecture firm and grew very fast. It's called Nussi Group. They did huge modulars all over the world. Ended up going to Milan, Italy, writing a book in that time period, and had an aha moment for Halo app, which we'll talk about. I'm the CEO and founder, along with my wife and our two other co-founders of Halo app. And that's been about the last 7 years of my life building that tech company. And it is not overnight. And there's everything imaginable that happens, and it's harder than even if you thought it was going to be the worst experience in the world. As we did, we said, well, this is going to be impossible, but that's kind of like our lane, the impossible lane. That if you can find the fun in the impossible, then I think you'll do well. But that's our journey, and we're still on it.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about this book.
Oh my goodness. I'm a romantic. I think I love love. I think you'll see that a lot in everything that we do in our company. We love to love. I love my wife so much, and that journey of love, manifested in my brain one day, mixed in with my religious beliefs. I'm a big fan of the Garden of Eden story, and I had a dream one day. What if there was a reimagining of love as the garden? And what if just to dive into it a little bit, what if there was this friendship that was perfect, like the garden, and an apple was presented as so many stories that we're very familiar with. It's presented to you, and maybe that apple's love. And if you take it, and if you take any endeavor in love, you're going to be stripped naked. And so there's like there's a dance. It's a modern reimagining. So it's based in my favorite city in the country, Boston. I'm a Lakers fan, so it's weird to say Boston, but Boston for architecture reasons, and just the mixture of everything that people love, the the necklace of parks and the ocean, sea mixed in with just a lot of the culture there in the suburbs. But
Very cool.
yeah, that's the book. It's called Eating Untouchable. It's still on sale. We I mean, talk about the journey. The book saved the business back in 2016. We sold 500 copies. And for anybody, like I know you're not like that. That was monumental, and it was things like my grandfather. I knew the math, right? They were $25 a book. I spent a year writing it. It was well worth it. It's a great read. But my grandfather said, give me 10. And I'm like, Grandpa, show it's $250. He said, I'll give it back to you tomorrow. And then he'd come back with $250. Give me another 10. And I mean, that paid my rent. And during the entrepreneurship journey. So just a lot of stuff mixing in, but love the book. Great story of my life of just like when people ask me about that perseverance part in running a business, I'm like, I wrote a romance novel, and so I kind of hated every moment. I was like, I'm gonna write a book, and I wrote the first chapter, and it sounded decent. And then it just like I would look at the word count and I'm like, how do people ever get to like a novel, And then it just became so natural. And I would get up in the morning and just write for 3 hours, and 30 minutes of it would just be straight gold. And that taught me a lot too.
So Taylor, tell us a funny story that your family likes to share about you that you'd be willing to share with the audience today.
Oh wow. There's so many. I'm really a weird. So a funny story is that my parents actually say I'm so smart because I used to walk into things. Like I literally would get, I would just get this, I don't know what it was, but just I would start thinking about something and I would go off on a tangent. I would start walking into things. So like my family always has a story about like us being at the movies and we just like crashing into into the concession carts or like walking through the mall and just running into a wall. And my mother said it's because I ding my head so much that I'm this smart. So I don't know, like that's literally when you talk to anybody in my family, somebody's gonna bring up me walking into something and everyone's gonna start laughing. So
I love it.
welcome to the Thanksgiving table.
There you go. So Taylor, tell us how the business came about, and at what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
Immediately, I would say I had the confidence that I could run the biggest company in the world. It literally started there. I wanted to be an entrepreneur just because I felt like that was my space. I was working at a job that like I was a superstar there, which felt really good, but I knew I was only doing like 10% of my capacity. I mean, I didn't have to work that much. I did calculations very fast. I brought in like Photoshop. They didn't even have a Photoshop person. And so like, we started bringing in millions of dollars. And so like, I knew the value there, but it was never fulfilling. I needed something that was just going to allow me to push myself, grow myself, speak to people, be creative, design, all while thinking creatively. I mean, just like all of these dynamics that make me feel full. And I just could not see that in any space outside of maybe like C-suite or like the perfect job. I looked at that trajectory as a Black man and that looked like 20 years. And as a millennial, I said, I don't want to wait 20 years to be able to get into a role or a position or, a spot in my career that like makes me happy. So I said, I'm gonna build a business. That started that conversation. And literally, I mean, it was 2 months. I remember coming home with Google. Man, what if there was a search engine, like not a search engine, but just like a search bar, where you can search something and everything will pop up. And then my roommate was like, that's Google, man. Like, that's Google. It's literally Google. We went through that fun phase of just like, bad ideas, good ideas, looking at margins as you learn business. I mean, I graduated with the architecture and planning degree. So, I'm learning like margins, et cetera, on the fly, profit. And I'm like, bottles of water, man. Look at the margins in bottles of water. We have to start a water company. We both love water. And then I went to Milan, Italy. With the company I was at. We were doing the World Expo in Milan. We did the pavilions there. They did like that from start to finish. They were up in 6 months, down in 4 months. Coolest thing ever. And I posted some pictures on social media. They're still there, just so people get like, the history of it all and the blessings that have come and the clear evidence of, a Lord directing my, ordering my steps. Um, I had a phone call, and I only had, a bit. The first time overseas, my parents were like, "Hey, listen, we're gonna call you. We'll hang up in a minute," because like the charges are crazy. I'm like, "What do you mean?" Um, and he called me and said, "Hey, congratulations. I appreciate, I knew you'd be great. I see you overseas. I remember you talking about like how you just always wanted to travel." And starts crying and just says, "Man, I need help, dude. Like I need a few $100." And I'm like, "I'll cash app you. I only have a little bit, but like let's talk when we get back. Like just send me your cash app." He paid me back plus 25% in 3 days. And I got back to the States and I thought, like, how cool, the next aha moment, Uber. I was out for the holiday and we were all at my house listening to music and everybody was like, "Rides here." And I'm like, who's driving? He's like, "No, dude, I Uber. Actually, when we come back, you're gonna have to use the code so we can get a free ride." Like, what is Uber? They didn't have enough spots and just gonna call it. And I jumped in the trunk, man. Like, I was like, "This is the coolest thing ever. What is this?" And the world was just like changing before me. And so I just became obsessed with this marketplace, this human connection, this people connecting with people. And there was just a clear lane of this people connecting with people that was not happening with money. And for me, that was the most natural, you know, application for this because it already exists. And that's what we always tell people. My grandfather owned a gas station. As a Black family, I mean, that's a powerful statement to own a book. That same grandfather picked cotton. So just to think about my family lineage, like my grandfather picked cotton as a child. Somehow his aunt was able to get into business, and so he owned a gas station. And that was like the family business. Everybody was there. It was a family reunion spot. Everybody in the community came. It was a party every time you were there. Get your tires changed. And I saw so many transactions happening. I mean, just like connections, business meetings. As a kid, I was just always intuitive to like what was happening. But the biggest thing I saw was that there were also the bank. It wasn't just the gas station because Black people don't get banking services. I don't know, the world knows that, but like it's literally just that. Like a lot of Black people just don't get banking services, just the minimum, the checking account, a saving, a credit card, which is a loan, which we'll talk about. And then, forget the mortgage stuff and all the other stuff. But just like, there's no credit card here, right? So like when anything happens, minus 200, minus 300, there is nowhere to go except for things like payday loans, which they're atrocious. I mean, you're talking about paying back $600 for a $400 loan, or my grandparents' gas station. And so that's what we've built. Literally, never been on tech, always been in humanity. The Halo app allows, from all of these things that have happened, people that have disposable income, like business owners, like pastors, like random members of the church, like principals that are able to back their community. And it's just an incredible thing that happens there. And there's a bunch of business stuff that's incredible about it, but just that union and that familiarity that people feel, it's natural. It's weird. You hear it, it's like, what? This would never work. And then you do it and you're like, oh, my family asks me all the time for, yep, your family should have a community. They should be able to anonymously request, up to $1,000, and someone in that community should back that loan. They should not be going to banks or worse. Well, banks aren't super great, but I'm not going to play that card today. But yeah, that is the revolution that's happening, and it's been because of what you're talking about on this show. The idea is still the same, but it evolved in so many ways just based on experience. I always say that, the book that I'm currently writing, it's called 1,000 Lives. And I truly believe I've been 1,000 of our app personas in this journey. Like I was the business owner that could have used $500. I lost a wedding contract, doing Photoshop because like I had to purchase Photoshop again. And I couldn't purchase Photoshop. So just so many moments where, that have developed and evolved this concept, for it to be as familiar as it is for people.
Awesome. So Taylor, tell us a little bit more about Halo. How does it work? How do you help people, and how can folks get on board?
I love it simple. Uh, for borrowers, it's as simple as jumping onto an app, requesting an amount of money up to $1,000, and saying how long you need to repay. We are an app that is is built on repayment. The fact that, like, a lot of the risk that people talk about, I think, is a myth. If you give people real help and you actually give them time to be successful, they'll repay their loans. And by de-risking the platform, we open up an opportunity for a second market of backers, of people. A lot of people in our app that haven't invested before now have an opportunity to invest in people. Um, so borrowers go into the app, they press up to $1,000. They wait for a match, sort of like you wait for an Uber. As soon as you put the request out, everyone in the communities you're a part of get notified, and someone can back you on the other end and charge up to a certain amount of percentage. Some communities cap it. The most you can charge on the platform is 35%, and we liaison the transaction.
Very, very cool. So what's the URL?
So thehaloapp.com. So www.thehaloapp.com. We just went through a really cool rebrand. So the site is up. We're adding a bunch of stuff now that we have, communities onboarding. So we'll have more community features popping up. And again, come as you are, sort of literally come as you are. You can set up a discovery call with us. It's 10, 15 minutes where we just discover where your best fit is. Maybe you're a backer that wants to diversify. I mean, if you're a traditional investor, maybe you're a backer that just wants to try something for the first time and see what happens. Maybe you're a philanthropist that just wants to, $4 billion in payday loans go out. There's $10 billion in fees on that loan. In our city, back in Indiana, $50 million will go back to our residents if we cap interest rates at 36%. So like that's like math that we can get around, and that can all happen on the Halo app. So if you just want to support our mission, we are partnered. We have a nonprofit partner, Kindness to One Another. We'll be releasing some information about that partnership, but her mission is to pay for people's bills. And she said, "Hey, I love your app. Can we help your borrowers get back on track if they fall behind?" I was like, yeah. And then she said, "Great, can we do it with 6 people to start?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And we've just grown our relationship. But literally,
awesome.
You can come, you can get a low interest loan, and we can help you succeed, because success means backer repayment, but success also means complete upward mobility and forward progression and getting back on your feet, and hundreds of dollars in savings. And that's the shift that we want to see.
That's awesome.
So if you have questions, visit us, or please reach out to me, or please email me at Taylor at the Halo app, and we'll get you taken care of.
Wonderful. So Taylor, share a story where someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do it, even though you maybe thought you couldn't, and the impact that person had on you.
Yes, I have 5,000 names. I mean, for this particular journey, at every step of the way, we did an investor report a few years back. It was called Rip Sheets of Paper, and it was based off of my second month as an entrepreneur. I went back to Ball State. Someone was speaking as a speaker series. It was Benjamin Todd Jellis, who's the director of the NAACP, also an angel investor, just everything I had read. I waited in line for an hour while everybody, signed their books, and I noticed that it was his wife in the corner because, from the research, pitched her. She said my pitch was awful, but I love the energy, and she made him talk to me, and he said absolutely not, but ripped off a sheet of paper and gave me names, and I was committed to doing rip sheets of paper for the rest of my career. And so there's been so many people, not just investors. We had to do things non-traditional, so we have 70 investors in our company, literally, checks. But people, sweat equity, people that were giving me mentorship, my family, starting with my parents, my brother, my co-founder, who is my wife. She's with me every day. She encourages me. So just literally thousands of people along this journey.
That's awesome. So Taylor, you mentioned one of your things you're most proud of is your failure. So what's your biggest learning as a business owner?
Failure does not exist. Just as a call to action, you always fail forward. If you fail, that is the success. And that's why I'm so proud of it. I was so terrified to do so many things. I'm always nervous. And that's, I think, why I'm moving forward. And that literally is a call to action to everybody. Embrace it. I used to hear it a bunch, and now I want to share it. If it's scary, is probably the direction you should go. So
Yeah.
I'm so proud that we failed, and we've tried things. And as a company, we're not the ones that are just timid. We'll go out there and we'll take a big miss, on the 3-0 count. So we'll, type deal. So I don't know. I embrace it. I look for it. Um, some of these rooms that I'm naturally in today, I was puffing my inhaler and I'm calling my dad, teared, I don't belong here. I can't do, I don't know any of the language. And, it was my dad that said, talk like you usually talk. What do you mean language? Talk exactly how you talk, and it was just those things that like have built me, built this, built all of us. So I embrace it. I hope everyone does too.
That's wonderful. They something I tell my clients all the time is that we always have a natural preference for our comfort zone, but everything that we want in life is on the other side of our comfort zone. Right. So I love the fact that you're willing to step out and take those big, those perceived big risks, but really, like your father said, it's not a risk, right? Just be yourself.
Yeah.
And do what you got to do. Our founder says that he never fails. He says that he either succeeds or he learns. And that's similar to, I think, what you just expressed, right? Embrace it, learn through it, figure it out, and become the next version of yourself.
And also, and assess the risk, like for some people, for us, hundreds of $1,000s in debt with, people. I have kids, I have a family, we're all the way out on the limb on this thing too. So some of my perspective is also, stay put, be calm. Some of the learnings that, I would have shared with myself 5 years ago is probably, you're good, there's a lot of panic that happens here too. You're good, relax.
Yes.
Calm down. Don't take a bad loan, kind of thing. Same thing we're preaching to our users. Like some people call us for a loan and we're like, you don't need a loan. You just need to breathe. And that's kind of, that's also from life experience building something like this. But I completely agree with you.
So Taylor, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us one of your biggest challenges as an owner, and who is a fellow business owner that came alongside you to help you through that challenge?
I would say our other founders, or my socio, I met Mario Barron at Home Advisor. So just to give you, him and his family own so many businesses. I mean, just like really savvy, best entrepreneur, best entrepreneurs I've ever met. Really. And I was completely, I was at zero. We were starting a family. We're like, we have to figure out a way, a way to make some kind of money. And I was like, well, sales, I've been selling sunglasses at Sunglass. So, I think I'm an expert salesperson now. And he was, the top sales rep. They own restaurants, Paco's Tacos. I call it the Paco's Tacos empires because they're smashing it and growing, and they own real estate and just all these things. And they were sort of our like zip tie in this, to say like, hey, listen, what you have is go to speak that language. I think for me, so many people just, you have to kind of smile in adversity all this time. Like there's just so many no's. I know some people say they go like 0 for 72. We were like 0 for 2,400 with investors. Just like going from like, we're going to change, this is the best idea I've ever heard of. All of our friends validating, all the barbershops validating, just everywhere we went, people saying like, oh man, to like 0 for just extraordinary numbers, just people slamming doors. And they you have to sell everything. You have to, burst. You have to do this. This is, I mean, just to speak that language and then to add a ton of business acumen, and then to make the connections, like we said. I mean, let me talk to one of my friends. He owns a restaurant. He does that to his employees. Learning how to pitch. I think sales is something that like I thought was disgusting, but like you have to. Mario was the one that said like, "Hey, pass or sell." You know what I'm saying? Like, Halo. Even if you have a good product, you sell because everyone has barriers. Like just like language that was very real to me. And I changed. So I would say that moment, obviously they're founders in the company, but that was a huge moment for us and a turning point for us as a business.
I like that principle on always be selling. So there is a negative connotation about salespeople, right? The used car salesman or the door knocker. Right? One of the things that I've learned is that we're not selling as much as we're professionally helping people make a decision that's right for them.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And in that case, there's no win or lose, right? It's just, it comes back to your idea of loving on people, right? If we're just genuinely helping people to decide if what we have to offer is right for them, if they say no, that's okay, because we still did our job.
Exactly. And I sell my daughter every day.
Yeah.
And I hope she buys the product.
So Taylor, if I ask you to pick 3 people in your business journey that you're most grateful for being there for you as part of your growth, who are those 3 people and how'd they help you?
Well, Ariana Williams, number 1. She was the Zoom name when we popped up. First and foremost, my best friend, my partner, she's with me every night. I mean, like we've been working probably 8 to 10 hours a day on this for 7 years. So having someone that will be there. I hate the misconception that spouses are supposed to do that, and that she's just like there's so many elements to it. I mean, there's days that I did want to quit, that she's nope, turn your head back around, look in the mirror, remember who you are, like just some supernatural conversations. She saved it. There's some days that I completely just sat on the couch. She said, "What's going on?" The app doesn't work. She went in to get labs, some messages. I mean, so that would be number 1, 2, and 3 probably. My mommy would probably be number 2. She educated for a lot of years, her background's in marketing, and I think that she kind of gave me my creativity, and she also simplifies the things. This is just Microsoft PowerPoint and Excel. No worries.
Yeah.
There's all these things. Builds our data infrastructure. She was the type. Says, "Oh, I did this at school. Let me see. What are you looking at? Oh, this is Mongo. I can get it. This is just a data lake." And for an entrepreneur, I'm like, I've been trying to find our data for a year. She's like, "It's all here. It's all here." Our underwriting system, just like things that teach calming me, same thing, like helping me before conversations, like some of that prep, learning how to talk to people, learning how to have crucial conversations.
And what's your mom's name?
Maria Simpson.
Awesome.
And and my dad, James Simpson, the greatest leader. I think I try to mimic him. He, if he were to have the company would be $1 billion company by now. First executive manager I tapped into, taught me everything about business. One of the best leaders, I think, between him and my mother. Literally completely different opposite styles. So I got a gist of both. He's an engineer by trade, so his mind constructs things, but he also it's outside of business, but he gave me the template again as a Black man to have a pathway to like do this, and you can be successful by 23. enabled me the freedom to even start. So, I was a homeowner by 23. Don't rent, own. This is how you'll do it. I'll help you. So that was, I was able to launch my business because I had a roommate, when we were paying a mortgage. So I was paying $500 a month for a 3-bedroom house with land, because, I was able to get to a point where this happens. So I would say him for the template. But again, so many others that have helped, that, will be named, have been named, should know how much I adore and appreciate them.
So Taylor, as you think about the next 3 to 5 years, what are the biggest challenges that you see that you'll face in achieving your goals, and who are the types of people that you're going to need to help you solve those challenges?
Three to, this year, growth for, all around. For me, I like to learn. And so now that people are using it, just asking the right questions, continuously asking questions, never making assumptions. I think as with anything that's new, there is sort of this blank canvas to paint on. So I would say staying true to who we are has been the toughest part. I mean, there's been so many hands in this, thoughts on this, different ways that this can go. I mean, we're talking about money and marketplace money. I mean, there's so many opportunities. To be who we are consistently has been a proud moment for us, I think, as a team. Learning how to scale. This is my first time as a CEO, so I have a lot of mentorship around me. Learning how to ask for help, just to be completely vulnerable, man. Just like learning how to ask for help is a skill that that I've had to learn. And learning how to ask for help in ways that you can receive it and execute. We're entering into a market where I expect to have millions of people on the platform, in 12 months. Like that is something that you can't say lightly, because I can't sleep off of the 1,000. So I'm terrified of just thinking about, all the lives, all the people that don't have loans yet. Man, this person came to a loan because, the light bill was off and it's been 24 hours. Now I'm calling backers, or like now I'm planning an email marketing campaign. I mean, it's just constant. So prep, being fearless, again, never losing that grit, those intangibles that like got us to this point. I mean, we weren't supposed to be here, right? Just by everything, but like it was by grit and by determination and by trial and error and scientific experiments, and having a no fear of failure that got us here. And I think that same kind of stuff is going to drive us forward. We talk about it all the time. Let's do it. Let's do it. You're building it. Let's do it. Repayment, like just to get into actual business things. I'm speaking to a community. I'm speaking to everyone, saying that these borrowers that you all did not believe in are not as risky as you think. They've just been stepped on. My family is a part of it. I'm a part of it. And so this is a new tool where we can prove it out and keep these dollars inside of the community and not need whatever said no to you. So going out on the limb saying that, but we're also seeing it, right? And so my hope is that we continue to see it and people continue to believe in this, and build their own financial profile on our platform, versus versus where they can't be seen. And making sure backers get their money back. Every dollar that goes out on our platform everything makes me nervous. Like Coach Tim, everything. I worry about every single thing. The SEC regulations. Like we stay up to tune with all of the regulations, but the market shifts. Like we saw with the last 3 presidents. Just like I don't know how many. Like in the financial market, the Dodd-Frank just got smacked and then smacked. I mean, just like all of these rules, and just it might not be a big deal, but just like seeing so much stuff happening in the whole market shifting. Web3 is shifting. What do we not know? Where are we not being innovative?
Sure.
And staying true to who you are. I mean, it's just all of it. So next 3 to 5 years for me is just like, man, hyper growth, be fearless, execute, build the right team, and see what happens.
Awesome. So Jim Rohn, one of my favorite authors, says we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So as you think about that from a business standpoint, what are your reactions to that quote?
Huge. I completely agree. And I think it's very, very, very true. I'm a fan of that, and I've actually sort of tried to create my future that way, or build my circle in that way, um, and also recognize who the power in that group. Like some people move groups because they don't recognize it. Some of my friends, family members, I remember knocking on the door. Trying to get a meeting with United Way Indy, and just next door, United Way Dayton, the person that ran the sound for my church was the director of United Way in Dayton. So like recognizing power in your circle, not being afraid to sit in your circle, and to just like find all the skills. I told you my mom is a data engineer. I mean, just literally opened up the whole app, 800 data points on each person. So like recognize the power in your circle, and I completely agree. Surround yourself with people that are like making you better, moving your mind, being emotional, not people emotional, good and bad, people that are telling you that you're wrong. Our board tells me that all the time, and I couldn't thank them enough for that. And I think that's just powerful. So surround yourself with greatness, and also notice the greatness that's already around you.
Taylor, it sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people who have helped you on your journey. If they were all on the show here today, what would you want to say to them?
Thank you. I'm gonna cry. I'm a crier. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do a thing. But yeah, thank you for real. Like I am and everybody knows that, generally unselfish person. Just like I'm a culmination of all of your prayers, and I watch you. I watch everything you do. Is the reason I've been able to learn so much. As you said, as a young man, watching the business that we had, recognizing the depth of our history. My father growing up in the civil rights movement, my mother growing up in the civil rights movement, just like learning from that, listening to all of the leadership that I had in my house. So I've listened to you, and I'm trying to make you proud, even though I know that's not a thing. Everyone always says like, "Oh, you make me proud," but like make you proud on Coach Tim's show and how I speak, make you proud on everywhere I go, how I interact, staying 5 minutes later on the Zoom, and being a truly good person, um, and being appreciative of everything the Lord has given to us and our family. So yeah, just thank you. Overwhelmingly, just thank you for the blessings that I've received.
Wonderful. Taylor, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Coach Tim. This was fun.
Awesome. For everyone who tuned in, thanks for listening to the Self-Made as a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsell. Be sure to help us spread this movement by liking the show and posting about it on your social media. And to join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure to pay it forward, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.